Today, we're getting a boat. So Monday, the day before Christmas Eve, the seller got in touch with us to let us know that the trailer that he'd been selling with the boat apparently had never actually had the boat on it, and when he tried to put the boat on the trailer, he discovered that it didn't fit. Either the bunks were too low, or the weight capacity was too low, or for whatever reason, he didn't think that the two could work together. Which was certainly annoying, but I'd much rather find that out before driving 1,000 miles to go get the boat than after driving 1,000 miles to get the boat. But it did lead to a little bit of a scurry to find another solution. Luckily, I already had a lead on a place that'll sell used trailers for reasonable prices, and I'm gonna go look at that and hopefully pick one up and be on our way. It is gonna delay everything by about half a day, just because the trailer dealership was closed for the holidays and not open really the day after Christmas, which is great. It's a small business, so I totally support that. But we got to go down there and get a trailer. So I'm on my way now to go pick up a trailer, and then I'll go pick up my dad, and we'll be on our way. Of course, this being the DC area and being near a major holiday, there is both road work and traffic. So we'll sit through this and practice my zen in the art of driving, and eventually we'll get where we're going. And then everything went off the rails. It turns out that when the trailer place said they thought they had a trailer that would work, it just needed brakes, what they really meant was they have a trailer. You might be able to modify it to get the boat on it. It needs brakes. It needs bunks. It was built for a power boat. The fenders are rusted. And it's basically just a frame. So the best laid plan only survives first contact with the enemy. We went back, we regrouped, and we're actually eventually able to find a trailer. It needed some work as well, but the work that it needed was more modest. It was a lot closer to what would work for a Compact 23. But after doing a little soul searching and running the numbers, it became apparent that I had really pushed the limits of how much investment was required just to get this boat home, and that it turned into a much bigger risk for a boat that I'd never actually inspected personally, and didn't know what the condition was beyond what the owner was willing to tell me in the listing and from emailing back and forth. So I made the hard decision to walk away from it. It's always hard being most of the way through a sale, or driving a long way to go look at a boat, or committing time and or money to something and then having to walk away. But it's always really important to be able to walk away from something like this, and being able to realize that the situation has changed enough that you need to reconsider it and possibly just not do it. It's the second boat that I've been within minutes, or I guess 15 hours worth of driving in this case, of bringing home before realizing that it was just not as good a situation as I thought it was, and the best thing was to just leave it and keep open for another opportunity. But that did leave us with a trailer. This is a 1984 Seminole trailer, for which I currently have no boat. It was originally designed for a motorboat, but you can see that it's got rollers down the center of it that are perfect for a sailboat. The frame is in perfect condition. The tires, even though they've got a lot of tread, don't have, they're all dry rotted. So that leaves us with a trailer and no boat to put it on. Now, even though I bought a trailer with no boat, that actually ended up being a pretty decent investment on its own, because it's surprisingly difficult to find a trailer that's set up or already close to being set up for a 23-foot shoal draft sailboat or thereabouts. This one's really close to what I need or would need. It's got all the rollers. It's the right size. It's the right shape. It needs some suspension work and some brake work. It's pretty much any boat trailer that's more than 10 years is going to need new brakes of some sort. But even after all that, it's still going to be well within the range of what you would spend to get a trailer in that condition. So even if I don't have a sailboat to put it on, or a sailboat to put on it yet, it's still a good time to spend fixing up this trailer, and then I'd be ready if something comes on the market or an opportunity happens nearby. So over the next week or so, I'm going to be ordering parts and fixing this up so that it's ready for a boat. And then you never know. There might be something in the works. Stay tuned for that. So now that all the wheels are off, you can see the springs a little easier. And this is the only thing that the seller of this trailer said needed to be replaced. And they were absolutely right. You can see there that the end of that spring has a crack in it, right there. If you go back a little bit, this one, if you can see up in there, I'm sure you can't, is actually missing. It's got a whole chunk taken out of it right there. It's supposed to be a full eye spring, and it almost, there's nothing holding it in there. You can see the bolt that's running through there. And the plates that are supposed to hold all the springs together are gone. On this one, you can see just a little bit of one left there. That should have gone all the way up and over the top. And it doesn't anymore. Kind of the same story over here. That one's letting go a little bit. That one, if it was there, is gone. These springs are a little bit better condition, but if you replace one side, you got to replace both. So the next order of business here is to take this apart enough so that we can put new spring assemblies on it. The brakes are also in pretty rough shape. The shoes, this side's a little bit better than the other side. The other side is definitely seized. The shoes are kind of crumbling away on the other side, and it was totally dry of fluid. I considered filling it back up with fluid just to see if everything worked, if it had fluid in it, but because the other side wasn't retracting and was actually stuck pinched in, I'm pretty certain that the pistons over here on the inside are jammed. And since the easiest time to replace this is going to be when the trailer's apart anyway, we'll do it now. It's a lot easier now than when there's a boat on it. I also broke off a stud getting this wheel off, so we'll replace that whole assembly with new brakes, and then I won't have to worry about replacing that stud. So you lose some, you win some. This is the original electric winch that was on the trailer. It is a power winch model T4000. And you can tell from the graphics there, this is absolutely late 80s, early 90s. The previous owner said that it jammed with the boat on the trailer, so they actually had to cut it to get the boat off when I guess they sold the boat. I didn't even look into fixing this. This is just rip it off and replace it. This is the original brake actuator. It is a tie-down, which is a pretty well-known brand today still. I couldn't get any model numbers off of it. Everything's so faded and or rusted. It did have an electric lockout on it for reverse though. It looked like a non-resettable breakaway. But given the condition of this and how janky the action was on it, trying to get it to function, I'm just going to replace this when I replace the brakes. We'll go with a whole new system. I may reuse the tubing. The tubing's stainless steel. It looks like it's in pretty good shape, so we'll give that a shot. And as long as that doesn't leak, we'll let it live on a little bit. The original, I guess it's called a third wheel. I'm not sure. Is in pretty rough shape. That really should be vertical there, and it's not. But I may replace that now, I may not. We'll see. It's not critical. It's not a safety item while you're towing, so I'm a little bit less concerned about that right now. I didn't really see any of these listed for sale of this style anymore, so I don't know how old this thing is, or even really how well it functions. So that's probably next for the chopping block once everything else is done. The tires weren't used very much. There's still a lot of tread there, but if you look closely, you can see cracks forming on the sidewalls and in between the tread. Tires actually have date codes, and I looked these up, and I don't remember now how old they are, but I believe they were in the early 2000s, so they are upwards of 16 years old now or so, and well beyond their useful lifespan. Tires tend to dry rot over time, especially if they're left out in the sun unprotected. So even though these have a lot of tread on them, they'd just be a disaster trying to tow with, especially if you're trying to go any distance. And since we've established that I'm willing to go the extra mile to get a boat, as it were, it'd be good to have a little bit better tires with a little bit more life on them.
If you'll excuse my chicken scratch, here's the plan for the trailer project. Step 1. Suspension. Need new springs and hardware. Step 2. Brakes. Need new actuator and calipers. Step 3. Electrical. Need new lights and to hook up the brakes. Step 4. Bunks. So that is the extent of what we need to work on right now on the trailer. So that is the extent of what the trailer needs before it'll be ready to get a boat on it. The real catch is that due to a super secret project, this all has to be done in 10 days. Stay tuned, it's going to be a wild ride.